Hello, welcome to the next episode of the Sirius Footballheads podcast. I'm Jay, and today I'm with Tom as usual, and we'll be talking about preseason and any business transactions that come up or have come up, like the Browns trade Duke Johnson to the Texans. Tom?
Just happened a couple hours ago, and interesting. I'm kind of surprised they did it, to be honest. With Kareem Hunt not being available for the first 8 weeks, I thought for sure they'd keep him on the roster. So now they've got Nick Chubb in the backfield, and then they've got some lucky guy just made a roster because they opened up this spot by sending Duke to Houston. So the first 8 weeks, they're going to be heavily relying on Chubb, and then when Kareem Hunt gets there, we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I'm looking at the news story. The first paragraph is saying that the compensation is a fourth rounder for 2020 that can become a third rounder if Johnson is active for 10 games.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
that's the per
Oh, wow.
source.
That's going to be a 10. That's going to be a third rounder then for sure.
Yeah. Um, well, here, I'll just.
I mean, they do have Lamar Miller there, and and he's their starter, but they've just really reinforced their backfield tremendously, I think.
Yeah, they did. And let's see here. Here's the. Oh, I need to pop that window open too. Gotta remember to do that. Present. And oh, that one. There you go. So, here's the story, and here's where the first paragraph where it's talking about it. But the move closes a controversial chapter for Johnson that saw him at odds with the Browns front office and the starting quarterback Baker Mayfield. It's interesting.
Oh, that's an exaggeration.
Oh, I'm sure it is. It's one of those things that they probably had a fight over something stupid at one point, and they've since let it
Well, no,
go.
what happened was Duke Johnson said he wanted to be traded, and Baker commented on it, saying, "Look, if you don't want to be here, don't be here. Otherwise, shut up and come to camp." And that was the extent of it. So it's not really I don't think a big issue now. I'm not in Browns
Yeah,
camp every day, so I'm not sure, but
yeah.
it doesn't seem to me they're just blowing that out of proportion, in my opinion.
All right. So it looks like Cleveland initially prioritized Carlos Hyde, but now they're going with Chubb. Okay, like you said. Johnson's best season came a year earlier when he topped 1,000 yards from scrimmage, scored 7 touchdowns, and caught 74 passes. Um, Cleveland now has 10 picks for the 2020 draft, including an extra fourth, potentially third, sixth, and seventh rounders as a result of trades on Johnson, Jamar Taylor, and Corey Coleman. So that's the extent of this story so far.
They put themselves in a really good position now. If they come out and have, the season everyone thinks that they're going to have and expects for them to have, then they've got a really solid base on which to build for the following season. And then they have 10 draft picks on top of that. So it looks to me like they're doing a great job of managing this team finally.
Yeah, like like I always say with my friends is that if you're gonna run a front office, you want to get rid of as much of the bad personnel as you can. But at the same time, you don't want to sacrifice with Jim, like Pat says, you want to trade talent for talent, or you want to get talent for talent. They might have talent for talent with Chubb, in the backfield now, but only time will tell.
So good for them. And obviously Duke wasn't very happy there, so that was undoubtedly not a good influence in the locker room.
Yeah,
But so now he's gone, and Houston's fortified their backfield, and we'll see how Cleveland holds up the first 8 weeks.
yep. Now let's see. Dolphins apparently signed Robert Ndemeke and put
Oh, yeah, Robert
yeah,
yeah, no, Ndici.
yeah,
He's from Arizona. He was a first-round pick, I think, for
yeah,
Arizona a couple of years ago.
yep.
But this guy's crazy. He fell out of a hotel window, and they still drafted him in the first
I
round.
know.
And Kamdichi is his name, and maybe it was the second round. I don't remember. But he never really developed into something. He ended up with a lot of suspensions and finally was released and so he gets a second shot in Miami. So if he's smart, he'll take advantage of it.
And like you were talking about last week, Bosa suffered significant ankle sprain from San Francisco.
Oh my God, I'm so shocked. I was so surprised to hear that. And Jason Verrett too, the same day. Oh my God. The Bosas are pretty fragile, I have to say.
Yeah,
Joey has yet to play a 16-game season. I expect that he will this year because, in essence, this is a contract year for him. He's got his fifth-year option year next year, and of course, he's going to hold out because he'll want to be the highest paid defensive player in the league. And if he puts up 20 sacks this year, he should be. But maybe this year we'll get 16 full games out of him, and then we'll see what he really can do, playing for all of that time.
yeah.
I mean, he was listed at 56 in the top 100 players for last season, and he only played 8 games.
Well, let's see.
But they are a little fragile bunch, I'll tell you. I heard that I was driving yesterday, and I heard the teaser on Sirius, and it said, an injury in 49ers camp. And I went, oh, what's happened to Bosa? And sure enough, that's what it was.
Okay, this has got to be the most clickbaity camp story I have read, or at least read the headline of in a while here. Let me switch over to the news here for everybody to see. Cousins complains about center sweat.
Oh, I saw that story this morning on NFL. He was pretty funny about it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't think he would ever do it to make fun of him in a negative way, but just jokingly ribbing the guy. I could see that.
Apparently, it is an issue. So Sean O'Hara on the NFL Network, and he apparently has the same problem. And Eli finally said to him, "Look, at halftime, he changed his pants because they were so dripping wet. He'd come out in the second half with a dry pair of pants, so that at least Eli would get a little bit of respite from it." So.
Yeah. This is an interesting one because we all know that Zeke's gone for the first few games of the season, but the rookie is actually taking his place, like in the practice reps and everything.
For the Cowboys?
Yeah.
Well, that's this is something actually I wanted to talk about, this holdouts. It's kind of an interesting scenario or situation that's developed because of the rookie wage cap and the length of these contracts, particularly for non-quarterbacks. A running back has a lifespan of 3.5, 4 years. And if you're a first-round draft pick, your contract runs 5.
Yep.
So you're playing on your rookie deal through your prime years, and coming to a second contract, that's it's really hard to write those big numbers, and that's why there's only 3 or 4 of them in the league right now that are getting really big money. And there's a big drop off between 3 and 4 contract wise, and that's where Gordon falls.
Yep.
And he's I'm not sure what his status is right now because August 6th was the deadline to report before your contract trolls over to next year. And apparently the Chargers now own him for an extra year. So next year he'll be a restricted free agent, okay, under the same contract he's under now before he becomes a free agent. And then at which point they would have the right to franchise him 2 years.
Yep.
So he added a year to his Charger prison sentence, I guess. And the only option for him now is to sign a new contract to resolve it. And he's not going to get what he wants. And quite frankly, trading Johnson to Houston just took one of those possible trade partners off the market. So there's very few teams that would be interested in him that need a running back. Very few teams that could afford to pay him more than what the Chargers are offering him. And yet he still thinks he's going to end up with a Gurley type of contract, and it's just not going to be there for him.
Yeah, that's the thing is a lot of these running backs are now thinking, I don't have a 5-year contract even when they're drafted in the first round. I should only have a 3-year contract. And the teams don't see it that way because, you know what? I have you for 5 years. Why should I do anything?
And that's exactly the situation Zach's in. And I see both of these situations lasting for quite a while. Both teams have offered their running back a contract. Dallas came out the other day and said they've offered all three of their guys, Dak,
Yeah.
the receiver, and running back, contracts that put them in the top 5 players at their positions. And we'll see what happens with that, if that's going to be good enough. If I was Prescott, I'd be signing it right now,
Yeah.
being one of the top 5 paid quarterbacks in the league, without having ever won anything. I think go ahead, take it. And as far as Cooper goes, I think Cooper's the one that I think could end up moving out of this whole thing. He might sign this. I don't know. We'll see what his agents advise him. I don't know the specifics of any of these deals. But Zeke, I can see him just sitting out.
Yeah.
And same thing with Gordon, just sitting out, which isn't going to do them any good at all, because they're going to come back next year in exactly the same position they're in now. They didn't report by August 6th. Their contracts have rolled over, and now they're in the same position they were in then. So they're going to get the best deal they can get this year, and that's what they should take, because it's not going to get any better.
Yeah. Gil Brandt has some interesting thoughts on the Tony Pollard running style. Reminds me of Lenny Moore. Google him if you're under 40. I know the Cowboys want to sign Zeke, but they have great insurance in Pollard. Either way, he'll be involved this year. So that's good to hear. How often do you hear about a star holding out and then they get hurt and the team doesn't have a backup?
There you go, Wally pipped.
So, let's see.
So we'll see. The Chargers are in great shape, I think, as far as their backups go. I really like Justin Jackson a lot, and Austin Eckler led the league in yards per touch last year, so he's also a good option. And with the other offensive weapons they have, I mean, it would be great to have Gordon there, but we've played a lot of games without him, and we've won a lot of games. He missed 4 games last year. We won all 4 of them. So, I think he's overvaluing his worth. I say that I think he's overvaluing his worth and relying on what he believes his talent is worth. And I can't argue with him on that, but there's no market for it.
All right. Jimmy Graham, everybody thinks I'm old and slow.
Preseason's starting tonight.
Yeah.
And what's your feeling about preseason? How do you watch a preseason football game?
I usually go back and watch the first 2 games. I'll record them and then I go back and watch them later at my perusal. Just because I can't sit through the second, third, fourth quarters of the first 2 games because it's brutal. Because I know the diehard fan of me, especially if I'm watching a Seahawks game. Here, let me stop sharing this so people can see what I'm really talking about here. Is that when I'm watching a game as a diehard fan, I cannot, for the life of me, not root for the team to win. And I know the second, third, and fourth string guys are not capable of being consistent enough to do the job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I
mean, I look at it. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I just cannot sit there and let my emotions take control of me. So I go back and try to watch it with a chart tracking the plays and stuff and see how the players do. And I will get a chart going for each individual player and watch that. It's just not every year can I do it like that. So, but that's what I try to do.
See, I love watching preseason, but I feel the same way that you do. And I find it's better if they're executing with some efficiency, then I feel better about watching it.
Yeah.
If it's 3 and out, 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 let's just move on. But I do love scouting the younger guys. I love seeing the younger players on the field. I really appreciate how hard they're working and how desperately they want to make this roster. And sure enough, there are, every year the Chargers have signed an undrafted free agent every year for like the last 22 years. and these guys come out of nowhere. Now, Austin Eckler 2 years ago was the guy. He wasn't even on the roster until game 4 of the
Yeah.
preseason, and he made a splash, and they kept him. And suddenly, we've got this guy that's tearing up
Yeah.
things. And I love that element. I love trying to identify who those guys are going to be and who are the guys that are going to, really stand out. And
Yeah.
and I enjoy that part of it.
Yeah. The
Tedium of watching
yeah.
is just, mind-boggling sometimes, but I do enjoy that element, and I certainly don't think we need 4 of them.
Yeah. Now, in the defense of the fourth game, I think that is one of my favorite games to watch, simply for the fact that you have a bunch of young and up-and-coming players that are trying to prove their worth. The smart ones know their role in the scheme that they're playing and will try to play to the best of their ability. They're the ones that are gonna, if they don't get signed by the team they're with, they will get picked up for either one of the last 53 spots on a roster, or they'll get put on the practice squad of another team. Those are the guys that make the fourth game worth watching. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah. No, and I don't disagree with that. I think you can do the same thing with 2 preseason games.
Oh,
Um, I'm I don't know that I'm an advocate of going to an 18-game schedule. I don't know what that would accomplish other than adding 2 games. You're going to end up in the same situation with, teams that are 9-9 instead of 8-8,
yeah.
and there'll be 2 more games to play. People talk about the safety element, but Pat makes a great point. If you're playing and you've got a 3-year career and you're going to get 6 extra game checks because of the added games over that course of that career, I'd do it in a
Oh,
heartbeat.
yeah.
So, so there's that to consider as well. But I guess, football is based on anticipation, and the entire sport is on we're all right now anticipating the games tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday, wherever your team plays. You're anticipating that so that you can get to go watch. And now at the bigger picture, we're all anticipating the fact that in 5 weeks is opening day. We can't wait for that to happen. Then opening day comes, and then you got to wait for your game to come on, and it finally comes on, and boom, you're watching the game, and now there's the kickoff, and we go to commercial, and now you wait for the first play to play, and it just everything about it is anticipation,
Yep.
anticipation, anticipation. The first week is over. Now you're anticipating week 2. So we live through that, the whole season through that, and you qualify for the playoffs, and now you're anticipating the playoff game. If you get the bye, you got 2 weeks to wait, so you're anticipating more. And finally, you get to the Super Bowl, the game's over, and now you're anticipating free agency. Then you're anticipating the draft. Then you're anticipating training camp. The
Oh,
whole thing is based on
yep.
anticipation, and coming to game 4, I'm so anxious to start the season that I go crazy because I'm so just anticipating it. And the Chargers, because we're West Coast, over the last probably, I'd say 3 out of the last 6 years, we have the second Monday night game. We don't have it this year, but we always have.
Yeah.
So
No.
now I'm seeing Thursday, then I'm waiting all through Sunday, and then the first Monday night game, and then finally the last game of opening weekend, and the Chargers take the field.
Oh, yeah.
So it really is based on that. And that game 4, just the anticipation drives me crazy. I just don't want it. I don't want to see it anymore. Make your decisions. Make the cuts. Let's get to opening day. I'm ready.
Oh, yeah. No, I get that entirely. And it is. It just boggles my mind that the NFL feels the need for 2 Monday night games. I get it. It's the first Monday night of the season. Cash in while you can. But at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, the ratings for that second game are not as high as they would be if it was just one standalone game.
Yeah.
So,
And at that point, it's a little later, and the East Coast is done.
yeah, exactly.
So it's people on the West Coast watching that second game anyway. So, but what was I just going to say? Just reminded me of a point. I lost it.
Oh, well,
Oh well.
I saw an interesting.
But anyway, watching preseason for me is all about scouting the players, finding those guys, seeing who's doing what and how they're functioning, and I enjoy that part of it.
Oh, yeah. That's what makes it fun, is the scouting and everything. Speaking of scouting, I saw a clip on Twitter this morning when I woke up. It was somebody sharing a Colin Kaepernick video. I usually let the Colin Kaepernick stuff slide because it's like he's been out of the league for so long, it's not really relevant.
Right.
But I saw this story just before we got on the topic of watching the games. Just a second here. I saw this. Cam Newton not playing in the preseason opener. Now, that could be nothing, really. But we were talking about his attitude last week. I'm curious.
Okay.
What would you think of bringing
Mm-hmm.
Kaepernick in? Not this season, but if he stays in good shape and have the Panthers in the offseason, pick him up as a challenge to Cam.
I there I'm not a big Kaepernick fan as a football player.
Neither am I.
He had his flashes with the 49ers, and he didn't leave the 49ers because of the political issues. He wasn't even starting at that point in time. He left because of football
Oh yeah.
issues. They were not going to keep him, and he executed that clause in his contract to get out earlier because he thought it outsmart him, and it didn't work out for him. Nobody picked him up. But it was football based decisions on my part. And anytime we're talking about looking for somebody to come in and shore up your quarterback situation, Kaepernick's not even on my list at this
No,
point in time.
in general,
He's been out of the game now for 3 years.
3 4 years.
He's
Yeah.
he's not coming.
Yeah. No. And,
Yeah, he's not coming.
and that's kind of where I am with it too. Is I don't think he is. But the thought when I saw this article headline for Newton not playing the preseason opener, it kind of struck me. His attitude is what it is. What better way to motivate an athlete than to bring another athlete who's been to the Super Bowl?
Well, he's also still injured. He's still
Oh yeah,
injured, though. I think I wouldn't play him in the first week either. And there's not going to be a lot of guys that are playing week one.
they'll play
They're
a
talking
series
in
or two. Yeah.
the Chargers. Rivers probably won't play tonight. If he does, he's going to play one series. Eli's not going to play much tonight either.
Yeah. No, I know.
And there's nothing odd about that. And I think Kaepernick is still recovering. I don't know that he's even fully practicing at this point in time. He might be. I don't know. I take it back. I saw a training camp with the Panthers the other day, and there wasn't a lot of I didn't see him on the field much. So I think he's still recovering.
Yes.
And that's probably the motivating factor for not
Oh yeah.
playing
No,
him.
I wasn't trying to insinuate that his attitude is what's keeping him out of the opener. I'm just saying in general we were talking about his attitude last week, and what better way to curb an attitude than to give him a focus that hey, I might be replaced by somebody who's been out of the league for 3 or 4 years.
If he thinks that Kaepernick could do that,
Right.
um, I'm not sure. I don't think that he would view Kaepernick as a threat at all if he came in at this point in time. If you traded for, somebody substantial, that would be a whole different deal.
Oh, and I
But
understand.
I come in. Oh, you know what I wanted to say last week? The Hall of Fame game. The the biggest surprise that I had watching that game was that Matt Schaub is still in the league. I thought he retired years ago, and all of a sudden I went, "He's the backup in Atlanta."
Yeah.
Oh wow!
He's bet.
And he's been there for a couple of years apparently.
Yeah.
So I'm like, Matt Schaub is still
Yeah.
playing.
He he
Good.
he left there, went to go be a starter somewhere, and then came back to Atlanta if I remember the
Yeah.
path correctly.
Yeah, he went to the Texans and played there for a couple of years. He went to the Raiders. He went someplace in between, and that I figured he was done.
Yeah.
And then, boom, he's still in Atlanta. So anyway, that was my takeaway from the Hall of Fame.
Oh
game.
yeah. It's just one of those things. It's quite impressive when you are watching these preseason games. You're like, you're still in the league? What?
And you're playing the fourth quarter of the Hall of Fame game? Jeez. Sorry, dude.
So let's see here. We round up Ziggy Ansah on target for week 1 for the Seahawks.
You know what I wanted to talk about? Antonio Brown.
Okay.
He has frostbite in his feet. from a cryotherapy session he'd had in France and did not wear the proper footwear. So my wife is a nurse practitioner, so I went to her because I've been close to frostbite a couple of times when I was skiing, and it's not pleasant. Nothing about it is pleasant, but I've never gone so far as to actually get frostbite. Frostbite is a non-regenerative
Right.
situation.
Yeah.
Once you lose those cells or those nerves from frostbite, they don't come back.
Right.
And her first question when I said, "This is what happened," her first question was, "Did he lose any toes?" I went, "Whoa, what do you mean? Did he lose any toes?" She goes, "Well, that's the first thing that's going to happen. If he didn't lose toes, then his feet are probably kind of mangled and he may have nerve damage. And if he has nerve damage in it, that's not going to regenerate. So what he's doing now, limping around, and from what I understand, he posted a picture of his feet and they look pretty awful. He may have permanent nerve damage in his feet, which case that's going to drastically affect his career because I know you need your feet to have your speed.
Especially at
So
that position.
the guy goes through the cryotherapy thing and could quite possibly have ended his career doing it. Typical Raider.
Oh, Dr. David Chow, not buying on August 6th, not buying the cryotherapy frostbite story for AB84. Follow this thread to see why. And it's from the San Diego Union Tribune. I
Right?
might have to pull that up. I'll throw that in the. Even if we don't cover it, I'm going to throw that
Yeah,
in
see
the.
what Dr.
Trying to see if I can find the picture of his feet.
He
Oh,
apparently he posted it on his Instagram account.
oh, this is. I think I found it. Hold on.
I haven't seen it, and I don't see what you post. So,
Oh, I know. Here we go. This is from TMZ Sports, so take it for what it's worth.
oh yeah, okay. Well, there you go.
So yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to laugh. I know that's disrespectful, and it's just this guy's career. And
Oh,
but
dang! I should not have
for
switched so
someone
quickly.
that has the way he's talked and projected the attitude that he's projected over the last couple of years, how to go do something so stupid is crazy.
There's the side image of it.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that kind of skin to kill that much skin.
yeah.
Oh, I bet he does have nerve damage.
Oh, it
We'll
won't.
have to wait and see.
Yeah, how much I don't know. But let's see what Dr. David Chow has to say about it.
I'm interested to hear what he says when he says he's not buying it. What else would he think was the cause?
All right. So Antonio Brown arrived via hot air balloon to the training camp and had a soft landing. Brown posted pictures of his feet on social media, some of which are grotesque, and certainly explain why he did not practice. Why he's not practiced. So how did it get this way? Judging from the photos, the superficial layers on the soles of Brown's feet were macerated from too much moisture. He likely had a superimposed infection that probably involved pneumonias, based on the color and appearance. Fortunately, this does not appear to be deep and involve mostly the dead skin areas of the sole of his feet. Therefore, it should be easily treatable, and his return to play should occur well before meaningful games are played. Word has come today that Brown is seeking a foot specialist. Hopefully, the superimposed infection has been treated and not gone deep and become cellulitis. If cellulitis were developed, he could need a strong intravenous antibiotics, and his return could be delayed further. Chronic hyperhidrosis is a condition that causes hands and feet to swell excessively and could be in play here. But Brown is an NFL veteran and has trained and very successfully played. Thus, it seems unusual to develop such a condition to this extent for the first time. So, basically, he's not buying that it's entirely.
And he He doesn't even. Yeah, he doesn't even address the frostbite though as a possible
Yeah,
cause. And I think if the diagnosis goes away and you say, okay, it's frostbite, how does that present? I think you're going to come to the same conclusions here. So,
yeah. Uh, he's already likely
I
on.
mean, when the player says it's frostbite from a machine, and the doctor turns around and says, "I don't buy that," is he saying that he is lying, that he wasn't in the cryotherapy machine?
No, I think what I think
It
what
doesn't make a lot of
I think
sense.
what he's saying is it's not necessarily that it's frostbite, that it is that the frostbite could have uh, the cold temperatures on that cause the superficial damage there. That's what he's saying. The way I read it is that Antonio Brown was suffering from this hydrohydrosis or something similar to it, possibly due to a infection that he's already had, and it just flared up really bad with the cryo chamber. And then the dead skin is what's showing, which is typical, while not blackened, like you would see in extreme cases of frostbite. It is
Yep.
it is severe enough that it took care of the dead skin layers. So, looks like he's going to have chemical
Well, he
soaks.
is the doctor, so. But
Yeah,
karma's a bitch. All I have to say, I guess.
yeah. They're saying that
All right. So, did you see Hard Knocks?
No, I have not watched Hard Knocks. I just can't seem to get around to watching Hard Knocks ever.
Interesting.
Talking about
To
the
me,
Raiders.
my very my favorite Hard Knocks series was season 1. It was just raw. It was just them out there with the camera. They caught all these shenanigans going on. Shannon Sharp was on the team and he was cutting up and playing practical jokes. And they were out and you could hear the players at practice. And they didn't really focus and develop storylines that you follow and stuff like that. To me, it was great. I think it's been tremendously overproduced since.
Yeah.
And it's not much different this time, except they're narrowing their focus a little bit, and there's not so much effect production on it, and it's more just shots from the field. One guy they focused on from the beginning apparently was on a Netflix show, something about my dream's not over, or something like these guys still want to be professional football players. Yeah. And this guy kind of became the clown prince of that series. And now he's in Raiders training camp. He lasted 2 days and they cut him. So
is that
was
Abraham?
Kind of funny. No. Jonathan Abrams, however, is somebody to keep an eye on, because the guy's like, he's arguing with Gruden. He's talking back to Gruden in a friendly, respectful way, but he's talking back to him. I get the feeling he's not really listening to what's going on, and he's in every shot. He is a camera hog. So I just kind of, and it's only one episode, and I don't know the guy. It's only one episode, so we'll see how it develops. But to me, the guy with the rookie with this attitude, come week 5, after he's been burned 4 times for touchdowns and the league is chewing him up, I'm interested to see how he reacts.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's going to be good.
Especially if Gruden's getting on
We'll
him.
see how that develops. Yeah, and but for the most part, I like the production elements of this episode, of this season so far. They're toned down from what they were. You're getting a lot more individual, stories from the actual players rather than just a manufactured storyline to see is the guy going to get cut or not. We'll have to wait and see. And it was okay, from somebody that watching it saying I could care less about anything that happens here. It was all right.
Here's an interesting Camp Buzz story. Chiefs move cornerback Tremon Smith to running back.
Interesting.
Yeah. Chiefs made an intriguing change on their depth chart, moving cornerback Tremon Smith to running back behind Damian Williams and Carlos Hyde. The speedy Smith was drafted by the Chiefs in the 6th round of 2018 and would later catch on as a kick returner after playing cornerback spots during the 2 of the first 3 games. His special teams debut came in Week 4 against the Patriots, where he made the most of the opportunity, accumulating 180 yards for 4 returns, including a crazy 97-yard return, which is currently being played here, that he nearly took to the house. In all,
96 yards.
97
He didn't
yards.
go to the.
Yeah, they literally stopped him like at the
Wow.
3-yard line. Yeah, it's crazy. But that's interesting. Um, I could see people trying to make moves like that. I mean, it didn't work out for Devin Hester when he was. Well, they put him at receiver.
Yeah, and I don't know anything about this, so it'll be interesting to see how it works out. Obviously, the guy has a spot as a special teamer, so I think his roster spot's secure,
Yeah.
and maybe he can accelerate because Carlos Hyde doesn't have a lot of time left in him.
No.
So, if they could, develop into a nice running back, that'd be great for them.
Yeah. This story was posted on July 31st. This is over a week old. Interesting. Kingdom's unaware of the QB depth chart. He's not carrying is one of the stories. Zach Martin's been evaluated for a minor ailment. Could just be a sickness or something. Oh, that's right. Clay Matthews went to the Rams. I forgot about that.
So, okay, so the Hall of Fame did vote on the 4th of August to expand their induction class next year to 20 players.
Oh, sweet.
There are going to be five current day players, just like there is now. There's going to be 10 senior players, 3 coaches, 3 contributors, and 2 coaches. So that'd be 20. So now the big, the debate is on as to who those 10 senior players are going to be. And they've been doing a lot of talk about it, and there's a lot of guys. I mean, Randy Gradishar has over 2,000 tackles. Clay Matthews played for 18 years and has like 1,800 tackles. That's Clay Matthews Jr., his father. Yeah. And, of course, part of the Matthew with Bruce already being in there. And,
yeah.
He's somebody that's definitely on the list. Cliff Branch was on the list, and how sad that he passed away last week.
Oh, that sucks.
They just made. I think he passed away on Saturday, just when they were making the vote on the 4th, and he passed away that day at 71, which is young. So that was very sad that he was so close to finding out if he was finally going in or not. There's just a long. Roger Craig is another one.
Yeah.
There's so many guys that were on the decade teams that aren't in the Hall of Fame. So that's going to be really interesting to see who the top 10 end up being. Contributors at 3, I'm not sure what they're going to do with that at all. Coaches, in my mind, it's Don Coryell and Dan Reeves.
Oh, probably.
Those are the 2 guys that should go in.
Probably. I think they should have flipped it. They should have had coaches 3, contributors still 2, because
yeah, I agree with that.
Because really, the biggest point of contention for the contributors was God, I can't think of the commissioner before Goodell. Why can I not remember his name all of a sudden?
Oh, Tagliabue.
Yeah, Tagliabue and Gil Brandt were the key. They were the key people that the Hall of Fame committee was trying to get in with the contributors section, and they've got them in now. So I mean,
so Tagliabue. Gil's in. So Tagliabue now. Bobby Beathard's already in. I don't know. Tex Schramm.
Tex Schramm would be a good one.
Possibly.
You know what they might be doing it for? I don't know if they could do it for him, but because I don't know what the stipulation for contributors is, but the owner Pat Bowlen for the Broncos.
Poland's in. Poland went in this year.
Oh, he did. Okay. I have not
Poland was
followed.
just
I've not really followed a whole lot
just
on the Hall of Fame this year.
Hall of Fame. I watched it, and I love watching it. I watch it every year, and I get all teary eyed and what have you. But the inductees this year just weren't that eloquent. I loved Kevin Mawai. He got me tearing up a little bit. Um, I loved Ty Law. Had a nice little section. I didn't realize that he was Tony Dorsett's nephew. Um, and Gonzalez, of course, he
Yeah.
was very very eloquent. Ed Reed just rambled. He was writing his speech as he went, and he had this funky hat and sunglasses on, so you couldn't see his face. And
Yeah.
he just kept crying, and blubbering, and totally out of order, and non sequitur after non sequitur. And it was, I mean, obviously very meaningful for him, but not very engaging as far as the audience
Yeah.
goes. So I was kind of just presentations. Gil even. Gil obviously is not a public speaker. He read his speech, but it lacked all of the charm that he has when he's on the radio,
Oh yeah.
in my opinion.
I
And I felt bad about that. I wanted him to be a little bit more heartfelt.
yeah. I'm just going through the alphabetical list of all the Hall of Famers that are in there now, and it is literally just the who's of football. And it's wow.
They're apparently doing a top 100 players of the league in league
Yeah.
history.
Gil mentioned something about that
And
on his
I'm
Twitter.
not a fan of these. I'm not a fan of these lists because they're just seem so arbitrary to me most of the
Yeah,
time.
they're
Like John said, once you're in the Hall of Fame, you're in the Hall of Fame. There's no more lists. You can't be the best guy in the Hall of Fame.
nope.
You were in the Hall of Fame, and I agree with him. You're going to have the Jim Brown, Jerry Rice debate about who's the greatest football player. Okay, well, there, but what about? And then you list everyone else in the Hall of Fame. So I think that's kind of a futile endeavor. I think it comes out this week, or maybe it came out last week. I don't know. I don't follow it, but I think that's kind of silly to do all of that.
No, I think it came out earlier this week already, because Gil shared number 28 or 26 was Barry Sanders.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay, there. 28? Really? So
let's see if I can find the tweet from Gil.
I mean, I think everyone in the Hall of Fame is in the top 10. And then you can go for everyone else. And if you're doing the history of the league, are you like excluding Tom Brady because he's not in the Hall of Fame?
Oh, that's just it. Is if I were to do a top 100 list of all-time players, I would have to do it based on retired players that have been basically that meet the requirements for the Hall of Fame. So they have to be retired for 5 years, and then rank it that way. And I would actually have to say I would want to put a cap on the amount of players per position. You know what I mean? So like,
Well, but that's not really fair.
no, well,
If you've got 8 great running backs, have 2 great safeties, how do you cap the running backs just to make them,
and that's kind of
if they're the greatest player?
and that's kind of where it would be is I basically have kind of like with the Hall of Fame yet again. I would take all those retired players and I'd be like, rank these players in order by position, your opinion, and then condense it down. Because I guarantee you're going to get more than, more running backs than safeties, agreed. But at the same time, you can then whittle it down. Because, I mean, do you really need, 6 players that are.
But we're not doing an all-star. We're not doing an all-star team. We're just doing the top 100 greatest players.
Uh-huh.
So by position seems to be irrelevant to me because we're not, like I said, if we're doing an all-star team, that would be different. You'd have 2 guys at every position or 3 guys at every position, and you're the third best guard, to ever play. But that's not what it says. It says the top 100 football players. And if they were all running backs, they'd be all running backs, or all quarterbacks or whatever. They're not. It's not going to be. But Barry Sanders at 28. Come on, seriously. And I bet you, if you name every one of those guys, I'd say exactly the same thing. Oh, really? Yeah, 89. Really?
I'm sure you would. Here you go. Just so you can see it with your own eyes that I'm not making it up here. 4 hours ago. 28.
There you go.
Oh,
and I have to assume number 3 is either Jerry Rice or Jim Brown.
That's gotta be. I haven't found the actual link to it. I wonder if it.
That's okay. Let's talk about something else. Because I'm like, really?
How about this picture of Gil Brandt?
Lance Armstrong 75? Really? Come on.
But yeah, have you been to a training camp tour spot with NFL Radio?
No. Well, I did. I was before they really started doing the tour stop thing. They just started doing it when I was still living in Spokane, and the Seahawks were training in Cheney.
Yeah.
I went out, and it was Adam Shine and Jerry Rice were out there, and I had a pretty decent relationship with Adam Shine, so I went out to hang with him and meet him and stuff. And I made a joke about the fact that I was the only guy that's ever climbed over Jerry Rice to get to Adam Shine and shake his hand. So I went to that, but that's the only one I've been to, and I just haven't been around them. They were at Charger camp. I think the first camp they went to was the Chargers, and it was a week ago Sunday.
Yeah.
And and I'm in Vegas, so I didn't get down for it. So no. Well, yes, and not in a long time.
Yeah, not in a long time. Same here, because it's been about 7 years since I went to the last one. I would love to go to another camp tour, and it wouldn't have to be like Tim and Pat or anybody. I think all the hosts on there are pretty great, but
they did the Seahawks a couple days ago.
Yeah, I know they did, bastards. The problem is like I want to schedule around my work to go up there to do this, but by the time that they announce the training tour, the tickets for that training event for the Seahawks is already bought out. So there's nothing I can do. You still with me there, Tom? You froze up on my meat side. Okay, looks like we might have lost Tom there for a minute. We'll just wait and see if he comes back. I'll pop over to the news, check out ESPN really quick. This is an interesting little article that I was looking at earlier today. Let's mute that down really quick. The preseason trial and error, how NFL coaches will manipulate the pass interference. So, Chase Daniels concocted the idea this summer that... Hold on a second. Are you back? So, I'm talking about this article. Back to this. Chase Daniels concocted the idea this summer, motivated by inspiration and spite, to capitalize on the NFL's new plans to review pass interference. The Chicago Bears backup quarterback proposed a twist. Throw a Hail Mary pass in the first quarter of the game. The ball would fly up into the end zone amid the usual jostle, grabbing, pulling by defenders on such plays. Assume the ball fell incomplete, as most Hail Marys do. Daniels suggests to Bears coach Matt Nagy immediately throw the challenge flag. The NFL Replay Command Center would have no choice but to either call or uphold pass interference on the defense. Daniels reasoned, giving the Bears an easy early 50 yards. Wow, that is just going to be epic if that's the case. Why not? Daniels asked after a recent Bears training camp practice. Everybody grabs and holds, and they rarely get intercepted. a a jump ball for the receiver. If you pull it in, it's a big gain, and you're on your way to an easy touchdown. There are new rules every year, and every year there's new ways around them. My mind is going crazy with all the things we have talked to Nagy about. Yes, there are a few holes in Daniel's ideas, but his enthusiasm eliminates the largely untold but significant downwind impact of the NFL rule changes. While many observers are fretting the expansion of replay, coaches have spent the spring and summer devising ways to manipulate it for competitive advantage. The first step, as preseason begins in earnest this Thursday, today, will be to test the system for clues on how it will operate in the regular season. A preseason of experimentation. Coaches surveyed this month indicate that they will use their challenge flags liberally in the preseason games, hoping to compile a collective library of the type of contacts. Hey, are we back?
I think so.
I see you.
Yeah, I don't.
All right.
I think I had an internet glitch here.
Yeah, you froze, so I was like, let's just move on. We'll wait for him to come back.
Sure. So what did I miss?
I'm talking about Chase Daniel's interesting idea with the preseason, using the NFL's manipulation of the pass interference rules.
I gotta say this. I was totally confused about this. I misinterpreted this rule from the very beginning. I thought that the NFL, in its infinite wisdom, would recognize what the problem was, which was at the end of the NFC Championship game, there was a blatant foul that was not called, and it cost one team its opportunity to go to the Super Bowl, and they wanted to fix that. To me, that's what the problem was. Just so happened in this instance, the foul was pass interference. But if the foul had been a flagrant face mask or a trip or a false start or anything else that was blatantly obvious and wasn't called, it would have had exactly the same effect for the Saints. Okay?
Right.
So in its infinite wisdom, in order to correct this, I thought that they said you can now challenge a non-call. And to me, that's what the new rule change was. I called in to the station last week and was talking to David Moulton about it because they kept talking about the pass interference rule. And it's not pass interference. It's everything. If it's a missed call, you can challenge it. And I was wrong. It's only pass interference. And it's like now you can challenge pass interference and you can challenge a non-call on pass interference. And I'm like, that doesn't solve the problem. They're so crazy. It's just like what they did with the overtime rule when they said, okay, we want both offenses to have a chance to be on the field. So we're going to set up this new thing. If you kick a field goal, the other team gets a chance. It's going to be great. It's going to be so fair, unless you score a touchdown on the opening drive and then the game's over. So they did not accomplish what they wanted to accomplish, which was getting both teams' offenses on the field in overtime. All right?
Yep.
They did the same thing here. They didn't solve this problem. In the Pittsburgh game, the Charger-Pittsburgh game last year, there was a play where the right tackle for the Chargers was 2 steps in a false start before that ball was snapped. Rivers drops back and throws a touchdown pass. Okay, the false start was missed. No flag. So there's nothing anyone can do about it. End of the game, as time is running out, the Chargers kick a field goal to win. Now, if you had taken those 7 points off the board, who knows what the situation would have been for the Steelers at the end of the game? Maybe they're winning, okay? But at least they have the chance to take those points off the board because of a missed call. And then you take it another step and you realize the Steelers missed the playoffs by 1 game. That play could have very well have been the reason the Steelers missed the playoffs. And there's no way to correct it because you can't challenge a non-call.
So you want to hear Chase Daniel's idea?
Okay.
Throw a Hail Mary pass in the first quarter of the game and call for a review of pass interference if they don't make the call. You think about it, it could work because here's the premise: is that you do this Hail Mary, the coach throws the challenge flag. The NFL has no choice at that point to either call or uphold the pass interference call on the defense, or they would then be able to see if the offense did did the pass interference. So it's a double-edged sword that
Yeah, and
recommending.
there are another couple of scenarios too in this thing where they can use this to break momentum of the other team and to do whatever. But the reality is, I don't think coaches are going to be um, that crazy with this. I think they're going to be much more disciplined and understand why that rule is in there. And if you do it in the first quarter, okay, that's great. If you lose the challenge, you lose your challenge. So at the end of the game, when you need it, you're not going to have it. So it's a pretty risky game to play. And I just don't think coaches are going to be that irresponsible with the calling of it. And people are blowing this way out of proportion.
Well, here's the thing: is um, I don't know if it was ESPN or the NFL that did this survey, but according to this article that I'm reading, coaches surveyed this month indicated that they will use their challenge flags liberally in the preseason games, in hoping to compile a collective library of the types of contact that would or wouldn't prompt senior vice president of officiating Al Riveron to overturn a judgment call on the field.
That makes sense.
So what John Perry for ESPN is estimating is 60 challenges over 65 games.
Okay, but that's in the preseason.
That's in the preseason.
When we get to the regular season and it counts, they're not going to do that. They're doing it now to see what they can get away with. What constitutes, overturning a non-call on pass interference, or constitutes overturning on pass interference. To me, they did it once in the Hall of Fame game, and I'm staring at him going, "Are you crazy? Why would you challenge that?" The guy clearly has his hand on the guy's collar, as they're both going up for the ball. That's pass interference. And even if you don't think it's pass interference, it's close enough that, but he challenged it obviously for that reason, to see what, the parameters are. And I bet you're right. I bet they do come up with, a lot more challenges on pass interference so that they can see what the parameters are. But it's going to be, the rule was put in for that play in the NFC Championship game, where the defender dives helmet to helmet into the receiver with 2 seconds before the ball arrives.
Oh, yeah.
Blatant pass interference, blatant helmet to helmet. That's why it's there. And if they're going to try to challenge judgment nitpicky calls, I think that's going to die a fast death, because they're not going to overturn those. It's just as clear as can be.
Yeah, I agree that it's definitely, the NFL has figuratively speaking, dropped the ball on this one.
Yeah, here's the problem.
Because
let's solve it in one instance. So if it's pass interference, we can fix it. But if it's a face mask or tripping or a false start or whatever, we can't fix it.
Here's the thing that the NFL needed to do with this, and rather than giving it necessarily to the coaches, it should have went to the it should have been to the what are they called now? Totally forgot what they call them up here in the article.
The replay booth?
Yeah, the replay command center in New York. They could just come in and be like, "No, you missed this. You got to call this. We'll put it under."
We already do that now, and that's what my frustration with the NFC Championship game was. We already do that. We have the capacity to go to New York, and New York can overturn stuff.
Right, but no. Here's the thing.
And say, sorry, you missed that call. It's pass interference. Somebody throw a flag.
That's just it. According to the rules, right now, the NFL cannot supersede the judgment of the officials on the field if they miss a call. All they can do is, if it's challenged, they can overturn the non-call.
And what I thought was they fixed that so that they could do that. And they didn't. All they did was make pass interference. If that's the penalty at the end of the game that's missed, you can fix that. But if it's any other penalty at the end of the game, you can't. And to me, they didn't solve the problem. They just made it more frustrating.
So here further in the article, even so, running a Hail Mary type pass in the first quarter would put Riveron in a difficult spot. He'd be either forced to overturn a no call or to maintain the Hail Mary standard of allowing potentially egregious level of contact go unaddressed. And they're missing the entire thing.
To set up a Hail Mary in the first quarter, you can't really do it, because in a Hail Mary situation, they'll drop 6 defensive backs, 30 yards off the line of scrimmage, because there's only one play you can do to win the game, and that's to throw a touchdown. So they drop those guys back. Everybody runs out. Everybody runs into the end zone. In the first quarter, you're going to be in man-to-man, or you're going to be in zone, or cover 2 or whatever, and you're not going to be in the situation where you have 6 guys in the end zone going for a pass. You're going to have one guy going long, and he's going to be covered. And so you can't set up a Hail Mary situation without it being a Hail Mary situation.
Well, and here's the thing: is if let's say a team does this, especially like in the regular season, they set up a Hail Mary type pass, and the defense buys it for whatever reason. Let's just say they buy it. If I'm the Seahawks, I would so set that up in a heartbeat and let Russell run for 20 yards, because that's what's going to happen.
You can do that now in the same situation. If it's the first quarter and it's 4th and 5, and you decide to go for it for some reason.
Exactly.
Maybe you're in that, just outside field goal range, but too close to punt type of situation.
Yeah.
And it's 4th and 5 or 4th and 6, and you send everybody long, and then the quarterback scrambles for the first down. We see that all the time. Or they do that, hit that little dump off pass or a little screen pass or draw pass or whatever. That's done all the time. That's not going to change. That's not even considered a Hail Mary, because you've just sent 4 guys long. And as soon as you do that, you open up the middle and your quarterback can run if your defensive line isn't, savvy enough to pick up what's going on. But you can't set up a Hail Mary situation unless it's a Hail Mary situation. You're not going to have all the defenders in the end zone, and that's where you get all the pass interference.
And here's the thing about the Hail Mary thing, is that they're doing this in a dichotomous way where it's either defensive pass interference or it's no call. That's the only 2 options. I don't know how many times I've watched a jump ball
pushing the defensive guys off all the time.
Or they use the defensive guy as a leverage to help jump off of them to try and get the ball. And here's an interesting thought. Could you change? Let's say this happens on a Hail Mary where the offensive player jumps off of another offensive player to get additional leverage. I think that's already in the rules. You can't do something like that.
Offense on offense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
But let's say that it's not in the rule book, and they use that in a playoff game or even regular season game that gets them into the playoffs. So the offensive guy can catch the ball. At what point?
It's got to be in there, because otherwise you're going to get an offensive guy that cups his hands together. The other receiver puts his foot in there, and the guy throws him in the air. He's now 5 feet above everyone else and makes the catch. I'm sure.
I was thinking more of like you have one guy brace himself down with his back turned to him, and the other guy pushes off and jumps onto him.
Yeah, that has to be illegal, I would think.
Yeah. So
because otherwise we'd see it. We'd never see it. So
I know, and that's what I'm thinking. It is already illegal, but if it's something that's they've never thought about, because it's like, why try to injure somebody else doing this?
Yeah. Again, but we're off on the same tangent of trying to figure out ways to get around this rule, and I'm sure a couple guys will try it, but if you throw a Hail Mary pass in the first quarter, you're going to have 4 guys going deep to the same location on the field, because that's the only way you'd get all the defenders there. So you'd have to throw, like to the right side of the end zone and send all 4 of your receivers into that end zone, into that area, to create the scenario of a Hail Mary pass. Because otherwise, particularly if they're playing man, they're just going to go where the receiver goes. And if they don't all go to the same spot in the end zone, then you don't have a Hail Mary type of setup. But you could do that now, but you couldn't challenge it. So, and if, say, the receiver catches it and the defensive team challenges it and there's offensive pass interference, so I don't see the return being all that great. It's certainly not a slam dunk to say, hey, we'll get pass interference and we'll get the ball at the 1 yard line. You could very easily have offensive pass interference as well with that many people running around. So I goes back to, I don't think that coaches will be that irresponsible with it as to, put themselves in that situation. Not to say someone won't try it.
Oh yeah.
But I just don't see it being a common thing. And as soon as it became a common thing, it would be very easily defended, I think.
Yeah. Like I said, it was just an interesting story that kind of caught my eye, and it's just how to put it. You could see them wanting to do more with it than they're wanting to project that you could do more with it than they actually will do with it.
Yeah.
So let's see here. I just realized that I'm still part of some fantasy football league with the Sirius Footballheads group that started like a decade ago. That nobody cares about. We just keep letting the computer basically pick for us. So I gotta select my keepers and and then go from there.
I've never played fantasy football.
Fantasy football is pretty fun if you can manage it. I usually try to do about 2 to 3 teams a year. Four is pushing it for me, but since I also live in the great state of Washington, I cannot play one of those like uh, DraftKings or those other money keeper or those money week long league things. I think I could do pretty good, but the problem with that is everybody plays basically the same high players, because you basically draft a cap based team,
Right. Yeah.
and so
If I can't have all Charger players, I'm not interested.
but I don't even think I have a Chargers player on my team now. Oh wait, I do. I have Melvin Gordon as a keeper because that's just smart.
Well, I would
But he's my
Mike
own,
Williams and Hunter Henry.
so. But yeah, all in all, I think this first set of games will be interesting. It'll be fun to talk about them next week. I got my NFL Game Pass all set up, ready to go for this season too. So
Good.
we're gonna be good
My
there.
Direct TV Sunday ticket, at least for this year. Who knows what happens after that? So,
Yeah, my best friend lives in Fresno, and he's a Seahawks fan, and he hates AT&T and DirecTV with a passion, but it's the only way he can watch Seahawks games every week.
yeah. And I went from, I think when we first moved to Spokane was 95, and we had the big satellite dish out in the yard. And that's the only way we could get. We had no cable. Even when we left 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we still had no cable up there.
Yeah,
But we had the big dish for about 3 years, and I used to be able to manipulate it to get pickup stations all over the country. And I finally found the San Diego station, so I could watch my preseason games on that. And then the big dishes like disappeared within 6 months. They were suddenly no good anymore. And they came in and we had Dish TV for the first couple of months, and then I realized that the Direct TV had the NFL Network, and I changed over then, and I've been on Direct TV now for 25 years, and won't leave it because it's got the NFL Network and it has the Sunday ticket, and those are the two things that are most important to me. So, and they used to be.
yeah,
DirecTV used to be so great. It was the best customer service experience you ever had. And then they were
yep,
bought by AT&T, and now they suck. So,
yep. This is why I get Game Pass, so that way I can watch the game as a fan and then go back and watch the coaches tape later. But I believe this year I get access to all of the games.
that's good. That's good. I had the NFL Pass 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I was back east in Hartford on a gig for 3 months during football season. And the place that I was staying had Dish TV, so I had no access to any other football games. So I got the pass and NFL Pass, and was able to watch all my Charger games that way.
All right. But yeah, this has been a pretty productive episode. I'll have to go back and edit out your little glitch there.
There's so many of them. How are you going to choose?
Oh, I'll pick and choose randomly, so your voice will be seen, but not you, and all that fun stuff.
Cool. All right.
So,
well, good. Nice to talk to you again, and we'll do
Yep.
it again next week. We're getting again anticipation. The season's
Exactly.
coming! Yay!
Yeah,
Well,
we need to
We're close. We're close. We're going to see pigskins in the air tonight, and I love the smell of pigskin in the morning. We'll see those in the air tonight, and we're on our way to opening day.
Yep, can't wait for that. Can't wait for that first game of the season. Can't wait to do the podcast before that. I think we might have to live stream before that one.
Yeah.
So, any mess ups we have will be mess ups.
Story of my life.
All right.
Okay.
Well, everybody take care. Y'all have fun. Enjoy your week, and keep watching that football.